At 6:17 a.m., the port of Rotterdam looked like a city made of steel. Cranes moved slow against a low, gray sky. The wind off the water had that wet bite that finds the gap between your collar and your neck. Trucks rolled past in steady lines. Everyone around me looked like they belonged, badges clipped, coffee in hand, walking with purpose. I scanned the visitor badge the freight forwarder had emailed me and waited for the green light. The scanner beeped once. Access denied. I tried again. Slower, like that would help. Same result. A security guard behind the glass looked up. Name? Daniel Harper, Kestrel Cycle. He typed, squinted. You're not on the list. I'm the compliance contact on the shipment. He shrugged like it wasn't his problem. Not on the list. My phone buzzed. A bank alert. Your corporate card has been frozen. Before I could even process that, another vibration hit. This one from our internal system. Your permissions have been updated. I opened my work email, logged out, travel portal, logged out, internal chat, logged out. One door after another shutting fast enough that it felt like someone was erasing me. Then a text from my boss, Trevor Keane. Your access is off. Don't expense anything else. Handle your return on your own. No call, no explanation. Just one sentence that pushed me outside the circle. I stared at it while rain dotted my screen. I didn't type a paragraph. I typed one word. Understood. I walked away from the gate and found a cafe across the street. Warm air, espresso smell, bright lights. I ordered the cheapest coffee because doing something normal felt like a lifeline. When I tapped the corporate card out of habit, the terminal chirped and flashed, declined. I paid cash with coins that sounded too loud. Then I sat by the window and opened my wallet. 42 euros, my license. A folded photo of my son in his soccer jersey, grinning like the world hadn't learned how to disappoint him yet. My name is Daniel Harper. I'm 38 years old. I'm a single dad to a 9-year-old named Milo. His mom left when he was 2. No fireworks, just a slow fade that turned into silence. Since then, it's been Milo and me, and every decision I make starts with the same question. Will this keep his life steady? The job is how I do that. Kestrel Cycle sells premium electric bikes, and those bikes run on lithium batteries. Lithium doesn't forgive mistakes. One mismatch between a code on a form and what's actually inside a box, and a shipment stops cold. My title is Dangerous Goods Compliance Coordinator. People at HQ like to call it paperwork. What it really means is I keep batteries moving legally and safely, test summaries current, labels correct, declarations clean, so customs doesn't shut us down. I'm careful. Trevor isn't. Trevor Keane is the kind of manager who loves the phrase, move fast. He also loves having someone else own the consequences. 2 weeks ago, he called me into his glass office and pointed at a shipping dashboard like it was a scoreboard. Rotterdam container is on hold, he said. Battery shipment. Why? I asked. He frowned. Does it matter? Fix it. It mattered. Holds always have reasons. I pulled the shipment record and saw the problem immediately. Our battery supplier had changed the packing configuration to speed output. The paperwork hadn't been updated correctly. Customs flagged a mismatch between the declared packaging instruction and the actual configuration. We need corrected documents, I said. Updated packing instruction, updated DG declaration, current UN 38.3 summary. Trevor leaned back. You're flying out. When? Tomorrow night. Stay until it clears. That night, Milo tried to act casual while he ate cereal. You have to go again? He asked. Just a few days, I said. He hesitated. You'll be back for my game? I'll do everything I can, I told him. It was the most honest sentence I had. My sister came to stay with him. I got on a plane with templates on my laptop and regulations in my head. Rotterdam was gray and industrial, wet steel and moving machinery. On day 2, I met our freight forwarder in a plain office near the docks. Fluorescent lights, burnt coffee, safety posters everywhere. A woman named Ingrid sat across from me, calm, sharp. She slid a folder toward me. "This is what customs flagged." I opened it and felt the anger rise because it didn't have to be this way. The declaration listed one packaging instruction. The actual configuration required another. The test summary attached was an older revision. A shortcut. "We can fix this today," I said. "Corrected declaration, correct instruction, current test summary." Ingrid didn't smile. "Your director emailed my team yesterday." I already knew where this was going. "He pushed us to run it through without corrections," she said. "Called it just paperwork. Said customs won't look that closely." "Customs looks," I said, "especially with lithium." Ingrid tapped a page deeper in the folder. "There's another requirement. Customs wants the corrected declaration signed by the responsible compliance person, someone authorized and on file." I read the line twice. It didn't change. "They won't accept a generic corporate signature," Ingrid continued. "They want the person who manages dangerous goods compliance." I looked up. "That's me." "Yes," she said. "You're the certified contact on record with us. Your director is not." Outside the window, trucks kept rolling into the port like my life hadn't just been yanked sideways. Ingrid leaned back. "There's a 72-hour window. If this isn't corrected by then, the container goes to long-term hold." She paused. "Storage fees start immediately." Another pause, and release becomes complicated. 72 hours. I thought about Milo's game. I thought about my sister trying to keep him from worrying. I thought about Trevor in his glass office, convinced he'd made a clean cut. I closed the folder carefully. You can shut off a badge. You can freeze a card. You can lock someone out of email. But you can't move lithium batteries through customs without the signature of the one person the system still recognizes. Trevor didn't stop texting after he cut me off. He texted like nothing happened, like I was still on the clock, like my name hadn't been scrubbed out of every system that mattered. "Is it cleared yet?" "What's the holdup?" "I need an ETA for release." I stared at the messages in the cafe window light and felt something twist in my chest. Not anger, not exactly. Disbelief. The nerve, demanding results from someone you'd just tried to strand. I didn't answer. Not right away. Because part of me still did what I always did. Calculate risk, stabilize the situation, keep the wheels from coming off. That instinct is hard to kill. It's why I'm good at my job. It's also why people like Trevor think they can treat you like a tool and still expect the work. I went back across the street to the port office and asked Ingrid if there was somewhere quiet I could sit. She led me to a small conference room. Printer in the corner, window facing stacks of containers like giant gray Lego bricks. "Customs will want corrected documents," she said. "Clean signature trail." She didn't blink. "No shortcuts." "I know," I said. My personal laptop was useless without company access. My work templates were locked behind a login screen that might as well have been a brick wall. So I rebuilt what I could from memory on my personal phone, hunched over the table like a teenager hiding texts in class. Packaging instruction, battery classification, net weight per package, labels, contact details. The details weren't the hard part. The hard part was doing it while realizing the company that owned the shipment had decided I was disposable. Around noon, Ingrid came back with her laptop and a tight look on her face. "They scheduled a call," she said. "Head office, 15 minutes. I didn't ask who. "Do you want me on it?" I said. Ingrid hesitated. "They didn't invite you." "Of course they didn't." I nodded once. "I'm sitting in." She didn't argue. Maybe she understood this wasn't just business. It was a test. Who actually had control here? 15 minutes later, Ingrid opened the video call. Two faces popped up. Trevor, clean office, rested, confident, and a man I'd never seen before, older than me, heavy-set, wearing a company logo polo like he'd pulled it out of plastic. Trevor smiled. "Ingrid, good to see you. Let's get this resolved." Ingrid stayed flat. "Hello, Trevor." Trevor's eyes flicked toward me. He didn't acknowledge me. Not a nod, not a glance, like I was a chair. "This is Mark Ellis," Trevor said, gesturing. "He's taking over compliance on this shipment." Mark raised a hand. "Hey, yeah, happy to help." My mouth went dry. Taking over, like you could swap a person out like a battery pack. Ingrid kept it professional. Customs requested the corrected dangerous goods declaration signed by the responsible certified contact on file. Trevor waved a hand. "Mark will sign. He's authorized." Ingrid didn't move. "Is his dangerous goods certification number on file with us?" Mark blinked. "My number." Trevor jumped in. "He's internal. He's fine." Ingrid leaned forward slightly. "For lithium batteries, fine isn't a category. A beat. Customs will not accept a signature from someone not certified and not registered as the responsible contact." Mark cleared his throat. "I mean, I've shipped hazardous stuff before." I clenched my phone under the table. Ingrid pulled up a document. "Then confirm the UN number," she said, "and the packaging instruction for this configuration." Mark nodded like he had it. Then his eyes darted off screen. "It's UN-38? No, sorry, UN-3 something." Trevor's smile tightened. "It's UN-3480, Ingrid said, calm but firm, "and the packaging instruction depends on the configuration and packaging." She tapped her screen. "Which one is declared here?" Mark leaned toward his camera like he could zoom into competence. "Right. So, it's lithium, batteries, packed with equipment?" Trevor cut in, voice sharper. "We don't need a quiz. We need release." Ingrid didn't flinch. "It's not a quiz. It's compliance." Another beat. "The wrong classification changes the entire requirement." Mark's cheeks reddened. "Okay. Look, I'm sure we can just—" "Mark," Ingrid said, "do you have certification documentation you can provide within the next hour?" Silence. Trevor's jaw twitched. "This is getting ridiculous," he said. Then, finally, he said my name, like it slipped out by accident. Daniel was supposed to have this handled already. I looked up slowly. "You locked me out," I said. My voice stayed even. "I can't submit anything through company channels." Trevor stared at me like I'd spoken out of turn. "This is not about you." Ingrid's eyes flicked between us, and for the first time, her expression hardened. "Actually," she said, "it is." She pointed at the customs request. "Customs wants the certified responsible person. That appears to be Daniel." A pause. "If you want release," she added, "you need to address that reality." Trevor forced a corporate smile that didn't reach his eyes. "We're not reversing any decisions. Mark will handle it." Ingrid shook her head once. Small, final. "Then the container will stay on hold." The call ended a minute later. Trevor didn't say goodbye. Mark didn't either. He just vanished from the screen like someone unplugged him. I sat there in the hum of fluorescent lights, listening to distant trucks and the soft rattle of rain against the window. My phone buzzed again. Not Trevor, a voice message from Milo. "Hey, Dad," he said, trying to sound casual and failing. "Aunt Jen made tacos. I saved you some." A little pause. "Coach says I'm starting on Saturday." Another pause. "You're gonna be here, right?" I closed my eyes and pressed my thumb into my forehead until I saw stars. Ingrid didn't speak for a moment. Then she slid the customs request across the table toward me. The signature line looked bigger in daylight. We have two problems, she said quietly. One is paperwork, a beat. The other is your company. I swallowed. What's the deadline again? 72 hours, she said. Less now. She paused, meeting my eyes like she was choosing her words. Daniel, if you sign anything, I need to know who you're signing as. An employee? A contractor? A private individual? My throat tightened, because that was the question, wasn't it? Trevor tried to replace me and failed, in front of the only gatekeeper that mattered. And now the entire shipment was waiting on a signature from a man the company had just fired. I looked down at the blank line and felt that cold clarity settle deeper. I'm going to make one call, I said. Then I'll tell you what I'm willing to do. Ingrid tapped the paper again, right on the blank line. The conference room smelled like toner and burnt coffee. Outside the window, Rotterdam kept doing what Rotterdam does. Cranes moving slow, forklifts weaving between stacked containers, rain sliding down metal like it belonged there. The port didn't care about feelings. The port cared about rules. I stared at the signature line and felt my throat tighten. Because that line wasn't just ink. It was liability. The kind that follows you. Into interviews, background checks, into any moment where someone asks, who signed off on this? I stepped into the hallway, where the air was colder and the signal was stronger. My thumb hovered over my contacts, then stopped on a name I hadn't called in years. Claire Mendel. Claire and I went through dangerous goods training together, back when Kestrel still took compliance seriously. She left a few years later and moved into risk consulting. Not a lawyer, but close enough to legal reality to know where the cliffs were. She picked up on the second ring. Daniel Harper, she said. This better be a wedding invite or an emergency. It's an emergency, I said. Talk. So I did. Container hold, mismatch, 72-hour deadline. Trevor freezing my card and locking my accounts while I was still overseas. Trevor trying to shove a replacement into a call with a forwarder who wouldn't accept him. Customs demanding a signature from the certified responsible contact on file. And that contact is me, I finished. But I'm not employed anymore. I'm locked out of everything. Claire didn't gasp. She didn't waste time being shocked. If you sign as an employee after termination, she said, and anything goes wrong, you're the perfect scapegoat. A beat. They'll say you acted without authority. They'll say you weren't authorized to sign. They'll claim you did it on your own. My stomach dropped, even though I already knew. Hearing it out loud made it real. What if I don't sign? I asked. Then it sits, Claire said. Storage fees, missed deadlines, internal panic. Another beat. And the pressure moves upward. She let that hang. Which is exactly what should happen. I stared out at rain blowing sideways. I have 42 euros, I said. I can't stay here forever. You don't stay forever, Claire said. You don't sign for free and you don't sign unprotected. Her tone sharpened. If they want your signature, then they hire your signature. The word hit hard. Hire. Contractor agreement, she said. Written authorization, indemnification, scope limited to this shipment. Contractor. Not a badge they could shut off. Not a calendar block they could cancel. A contract is a different kind of reality. And Daniel, she added, don't do this through Trevor's ego and text messages. Get it signed by someone with authority, legal, HR, CFO, someone who can't pretend they didn't know. My jaw tightened. What do I ask for? Protection, she said. Minimum. Letter of authorization naming you as signatory for this container. A beat. Indemnification for claims tied to that signature. Consulting fee, reimbursement. And travel, she added. They restore your return flight. Put everything in writing, she said. Keep copies. Her voice softened, just slightly. Don't get petty, she said. Get precise. I swallowed. Send me a number. She gave me a range based on urgency and expertise. It wasn't insane. It was just the first number I'd ever considered that reflected what the work actually costs when the stakes are real. Also, she said, send me whatever they draft before you sign. I'll sanity check it. I will, I said. I hung up and stood there for a beat. My heartbeat felt loud in the quiet hallway. Then I went back into the room. Ingrid looked up. Okay? I'm not signing as an employee, I said. If they want my name, they engage me as an independent consultant. Written authorization, indemnification, defined scope. Ingrid's eyes softened a fraction. That's the cleanest way. Customs cares about authorization, she said. Liability cares about paperwork. I sat down and opened my notes app. I didn't write a speech. I wrote terms. Independent contractor engagement limited to Rotterdam battery container release, letter of authorization. Naming me as DG signatory for this shipment, indemnification for claims arising from documentation, DART signature within scope, consulting fee per day, minimum 1 day. Reimbursement of travel, lodging, meals incurred due to company actions, return flight reinstated today. Payment wired within 24 hours, all communications to my personal email, company locked me out. I stared at the feline for a second. That old guilt crept in. The urge to be reasonable, to keep people comfortable. That guilt had funded a lot of Trevor's confidence over the years. I typed the number anyway. Then I added one sentence. If these terms are not accepted in writing, I will not sign any customs documentation. I copied it and sent it to Trevor. No greeting, no apology. Just reality. 2 minutes passed. Then my phone buzzed. Trevor called. I watched his name flash and felt the old reflex to answer and explain. The reflex that kept me employed. The reflex that kept me small. I let it ring out. A text followed immediately. This is extortion. I stared at that word and felt something almost calm. Extortion is creating a problem and charging to fix it. Trevor created the problem. He cut off the only certified person the system recognized. He tried to replace me and got embarrassed. Now he wanted the solution without paying the cost. I typed one line back. Not extortion, risk management. I'm not authorized as an employee. I will sign only under written authorization and indemnification. Deadline still running. Then I set my phone down and looked at Ingrid. Storage fees start when? In less than 24 hours, she said. And customs won't bend because your director is angry. Good, I said. The word surprised me, but it was true. Time was the lever, and Trevor had handed it to me. A few minutes later, Ingrid slid a printed packet across the table. This is the exact language customs wants, she said, and the LOA template they accept. I flipped through it. Cold, precise. Beautiful, if you're the kind of person who knows what compliance paperwork can prevent. Because it meant there was a path, a legitimate one. My phone buzzed again, a voice message from Milo. Hey, Dad, he said, trying to sound casual and failing. Aunt Jen made tacos. I saved you some. A small pause. Coach says I'm starting on Saturday. Another pause. You're gonna be here, right? My chest tightened so fast it felt like a fist. I didn't cry. I just sat very still for a second, listening to his voice, letting it anchor me. I needed to get home. I needed to stay safe. And I needed to stop letting people like Trevor use my responsibility as a leash. Not 10 minutes later, another call came through. Unknown number, I answered. Daniel Harper? A woman asked. Yes. This is Janet in HR at Kestrel Cycle, she said. Her tone was careful, like she was stepping across broken glass. I'm calling about the Rotterdam situation. Of course she was. We understand the shipment is held, Janet continued. And there's a signature requirement. There is, I said. Customs needs the certified responsible contact on file. That's me. A pause. Trevor said you're refusing to cooperate, she said. I kept my voice calm. Calm wasn't weakness anymore. Calm was control. I'm not refusing, I said. I'm refusing to sign while unauthorized and unprotected. I've sent terms for a limited contractor engagement, written authorization and indemnification. Another pause. Longer. Can you email those terms? She asked. They locked my company email, I said, but I can send from my personal. Please do, she said. I'm looping in legal. I emailed her the bullet points, plus Ingrid's LOA template and customs wording. Not because I was being nice, because I wasn't going to let anyone pretend they didn't understand the requirement. Then I waited. Trevor texted again. You're making this worse. HR is involved because of you. I didn't respond. An hour passed. The rain didn't stop. The port didn't slow down. Ingrid worked quietly on her laptop like she was building a bridge while two people yelled from opposite sides of a river. Then my phone rang again. Kestrel Legal, the caller ID said. I answered. Mr. Harper, a man said. Clipped, tired, professional. This is Nathan Briggs with Kestrel's legal department. We received your terms. Okay, I said. We're prepared to engage you as an independent contractor for the limited purpose of correcting documentation and signing as authorized DG signatory for the Rotterdam shipment, he said, like reading a script. We can also provide a letter of authorization. And indemnification, I said. A small pause. We can include indemnification for claims arising from your work within the defined scope, he said, provided you act within that scope. Put it in writing, I said. It will be, he replied. We're drafting an agreement now. And travel, I said. My return flight gets reinstated today. Another pause. Yes, he said. Travel will be covered. I didn't thank him. This wasn't kindness. This was damage control. And payment, I said. Wire within 24 hours. Nathan cleared his throat. We typically pay contractors net 30. I have 42 euros, I said. A beat. Your director froze my card and locked my accounts. If you want me to stay here and do this, payment terms are part of the risk plan. Silence. Then quieter. Understood. Send the agreement to my personal email, I said. We will, Nathan replied. Once executed, we'll issue the LOA and proceed with corrected documents. When I hung up, Ingrid looked at me. They're actually doing it. Yes, I said. Legal's drafting. Good, she said. Because customs won't wait for your boss's pride. My phone buzzed with an email notification. Subject, Independent Contractor Agreement, Rotterdam Shipment. I opened it and read every line slowly. 3 pages. Plain language dressed in legal clothing. My name, their name, scope, fee, authorization, indemnification, wire instructions. It was almost clean. Almost. They wrote it like I was voluntarily consulting. Like there hadn't been a nasty termination text and a frozen corporate card. Like none of the ugliness existed. I didn't need them to confess. I needed the contract to protect me. I forwarded it to Claire with one line. Quick check. Then I wrote Nathan back. Add clause. I act solely as authorized independent contractor for this shipment. No employment relationship. LOA must be issued before any customs signature. Confirm wire within 24 hours. 2 minutes later. Accepted. The revised agreement came in. Claire replied shortly after. Solid. Stay inside scope. Save everything. I signed digitally on my phone. The way you sign something when you're tired and cold and very awake to what your future costs. 15 minutes later, Ingrid's printer whirred. She picked up a fresh letter on Kestrel letterhead, signed by someone with a title higher than Trevor's. Letter of authorization, the exact wording customs wanted. My name as the designated signatory. She slid it toward me like it was just paper, but it wasn't. It was proof the company that tried to erase me still needed me, on paper, in the only language that mattered here. Written authority. Ingrid laid out the corrected declaration, the updated packing instruction reference, the revised UN 38.3 summary, clean, consistent, defensible. All that's left, she said, is your signature. I stared at the line again, not as an employee, not as a subordinate, not as someone begging to keep a paycheck, as an independent contractor, authorized, indemnified, paid. I signed. The moment my pen lifted, Ingrid's phone lit up. She glanced at it, then looked at me. Customs accepted, she said. Release order is being issued. Outside, somewhere in that grid of steel boxes, a process started moving again because my name had done what Trevor's authority couldn't. I leaned back and felt my body catch up, staying alert, staying sharp, staying upright. My hands were heavy, my eyes burned, my phone buzzed one more time. Trevor. Happy now? The text read. I stared at it, then set my phone face down on the table without replying. Because it wasn't about happiness. It was about the first time in my life I'd made someone like Trevor pay the real price of treating me like I didn't matter. And now that I'd seen what leverage looked like on paper, real leverage, not bravado, I wasn't going back to being replaceable. Not ever. I didn't go looking for updates about Kestrel after Rotterdam. I didn't stalk LinkedIn. I didn't text old coworkers for dirt. I didn't have the stomach for that kind of celebration. And honestly, I didn't feel like celebrating. When the container finally got its release order, my body remembered it had been running on rain, caffeine, and adrenaline for days. I just wanted to go home, but lithium shipping is a small world. Forwarders talk, carriers talk, customs brokers talk, insurance people talk the most, because their entire job is turning other people's mistakes into numbers. So the news came to me anyway. 3 days after customs accepted my signature, I was back in the cafe across from the port. Same window, same gray light. I stared at my phone, waiting on one last confirmation that the container had physically cleared the yard. Ingrid walked in like she always did, calm, clipped, no wasted motion, and set her phone on the table between us. They opened a file, she said. A file? I asked. A dangerous goods incident file, she said. Carrier risk team. She didn't overdramatize it. It's not flashy, she added, but it's real. Why now? I asked. Because your head office tried to push it through without corrections, she said. They pressured us. My stomach tightened, not because I was surprised, because I wasn't. Trevor treated basic safety like it was a scheduling conflict. What tightened my chest was the realization it was documented, time-stamped, and now living in a system that doesn't forget. Ingrid tapped her screen. The wording was bland on purpose. DG compliance concern, shipper pressure to expedite. Once that's logged, she said, it travels. Meaning? I asked. Carrier shares it internally, Ingrid said. Sometimes it triggers extra questions. Sometimes insurance asks why the shipper's culture looks like this. Culture, corporate word, clean wrapper, for what Trevor really had. Arrogance, with a budget. I didn't feel happy. I felt tired. And under that, I felt relief. Because for once, the consequences weren't landing on my shoulders. I flew home as soon as my return ticket was reinstated. A real boarding pass. Not something tied to a company account that could be shut off with a text. On the plane, I kept thinking about Milo. Not the big things, the small things. The tacos my sister said he'd been eating. The way he always asked if I'd seen his new cleats. The way he tried to act grown up when he was scared. When I landed, he was at baggage claim with my sister, holding a plastic container like it was evidence. "I saved you some," he said, before I could even hug him. My throat went thick. I hugged him anyway. He was still so light, still so small, and his trust was fragile when you keep saying, "I'll try." That night, after he fell asleep, my phone buzzed. A message from someone at Kestrel I hadn't heard from in months. Martin, supply chain, old school, competent. The kind of guy who knew where the bodies were buried because he'd been carrying the boxes for years. "You hearing what's happening?" he wrote. I stared at the screen longer than I needed to, then typed, "No. What?" His reply came fast. "Board got pulled in. Risk team 2. Rotterdam got logged as shipper pressure." A beat. "Legal's asking who told the forwarder to push without corrections." Another beat. "Trevor's getting grilled." I set my phone down and stared at the dark window over my sink. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt vindicated. Quietly. Like the world finally stopped asking me to absorb the cost of someone else's shortcuts. Over the next couple of weeks, the story came in pieces. Ingrid messaged once. Carrier asked for communication records. Another time. Insurer has questions. Martin told me Kestrel's future lithium shipments were getting treated differently. Not banned, not blocked, just squeezed. Extra checks, extra steps. A risk surcharge from the carrier until Kestrel could prove their process was tightened. 2-step sign-offs. Certification verification on file for anyone signing dangerous goods paperwork. No last-minute packing changes without written approval. None of that looks dramatic from the outside, but it costs money, and it costs time. And when your whole business model is built on move fast, friction isn't a nuisance. It's a bruise that keeps spreading. Retailers don't care about your internal drama. They care about shelves and seasons. Miss a window and you either discount product or eat inventory. Kestrel didn't collapse in a headline. They just started bleeding in places executives actually notice. Then HR called. Janet's voice was careful, the way HR voices get when the company is trying to protect itself from what it already knows. "Daniel," she said, "this call is part of an internal review. We're documenting what occurred in Rotterdam." "I understand," I said. She asked questions like a checklist. Dates, times, what I received, what I was told, whether I was informed of termination, how access was revoked, who tried to replace me, who authorized the contractor engagement. I answered with facts, no speeches, no emotion. When she asked, "Did Trevor instruct you to proceed without proper authorization?" I paused for half a second. "I can't proceed without authorization," I said. "That's the point. My access was revoked. An uncertified person attempted to sign. The forwarder refused." A beat. Legal engaged me as a contractor to resolve the shipment, with written authorization. There was silence. Not awkward silence, processing silence. Then Janet said, "Thank you. That's all I need." Before she hung up, she added something that sounded like it slipped out. "This situation raised concerns about decision-making," she said. I didn't ask what she meant. I didn't need a translation. I already knew what a board does when decision-making turns into measurable cost. A month later, Martin called instead of texting. "You didn't hear it from me," he said, "but they moved him." "Moved him where?" I asked. "Not fired," Martin said. "Not officially. But he's out of supply chain. Some strategic initiatives role where he can't touch shipping." I closed my eyes and let that land. Trevor wasn't destroyed. He wasn't bankrupt. He didn't end up on the evening news. He became something worse, for a man like him. He became irrelevant, and that felt like justice. Not because I wanted him to suffer, but because the system finally stopped rewarding him for treating safety like a suggestion and people like disposable parts. I didn't celebrate when I heard it. I didn't feel victorious. I felt relief. Because Rotterdam wasn't just a mess I survived. It became proof of something I'd ignored for years. My expertise has weight, and my signature has value. Not value as a favor, value as a professional asset. That proof started traveling too. A week after the HR call, an email hit my personal inbox from a compliance director at a mid-sized electronics company. Short message, straight to the point. I heard you handled a lithium hold in Rotterdam under difficult circumstances. Are you available for consulting support? Then another. An e-mobility startup that needed help tightening their dangerous goods process before their next shipment. Then another. Claire had been right. I didn't need revenge. I needed leverage. And leverage looked like refusing to hand out my expertise for free to people who only respected it when they were desperate. Saturday morning, I went to Milo's game. I showed up early, like I always do. The grass was damp. The air was cold. Parents stood around with coffee cups and folding chairs and small talk that pretended life was simple. Milo bounced on his toes, scanning the sideline like he didn't want to hope too hard. Then he saw me. His face cracked open into that bright, surprised smile kids get when the thing they want most shows up anyway. "You made it," he said. "I made it," I told him. And standing there, watching him run onto the field, I understood something I wish I'd learned sooner. I didn't hurt Kestrel. I didn't sabotage anything. I didn't burn anything down. I just stopped absorbing the consequences of someone else's shortcuts. Trevor made his choices, the rules made theirs. I simply refused to put my name on a mess that wasn't mine to carry. If you've listened this far, thank you. I know stories like this can hit close, especially if you've ever been the person holding everything together while someone else called it leadership. If this reminded you your work has value, hit like.